Have you ever seen this? It's a fascinating paradox. You look at cities across sub-Saharan Africa, and they are just exploding with life, with commerce, with activity everywhere you look. And yet, so many of them struggle to fund the most basic services, like roads or schools. Well, this all comes down to the massive challenge of the informal economy. And today, we're going to dig into how a digital solution might just be changing the entire game. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to get a handle on the sheer scale of this economic paradox. Then we'll look at exactly why the old ways of collecting taxes are in a full-blown crisis. After that, we'll dive into a digital solution called eGOX, see how it's making a real-world difference in Senegal, and finally, we'll ask what this new model could mean for the future of growth.
All right, so to really get why a solution like this is so important, we have to understand the world it operates in. We're talking about an economic landscape where the informal sector isn't some small fringe part of the economy. No, it's the main event, a huge, powerful engine operating almost completely in the shadows.
And the scale of this is honestly hard to wrap your head around. Just imagine, somewhere between 70 and 90% of all businesses in sub-Saharan Africa are informal. This isn't just a piece of the pie, it's pretty much the whole pie. It is the local economy for most people.
And you gotta understand, informal does not mean small or insignificant, not at all. This sector can make up as much as 65% of an entire country's GDP. It is a vital, powerful engine driving everything forward, but it's running completely off the grid, invisible to the national treasury.
And that's where the problem really hits home. You have this massive disconnect. On one hand, you have the huge majority of businesses, the lifeblood of the economy, and on the other hand, you have this tiny little slice, fewer than 20%, that are actually paying into the system. The result? A giant, gaping hole where the money for public services should be. So, with this huge revenue gap, what are cities supposed to do? Well, they have to rely on the tools they've got, which are usually traditional, manual, pen and paper collection methods. But as we're about to see, these systems aren't just a little outdated, they are at a total breaking point. The source material we're looking at uses this term, and wow, is it powerful, budgetary asphyxiation. I mean, what a striking image, right? It perfectly describes how these municipalities are literally being choked, deprived of the financial oxygen they need to breathe, to invest, and to serve their citizens.
And at the heart of the problem is this old-school, cash-based system. It's not just that it's slow and inefficient, it's much worse than that. It's a breeding ground for errors, for fraud, and, for corruption. And when that happens, it completely shatters the trust between people and their government, creating this vicious cycle that's almost impossible to break. Okay, so you have this total gridlock, a real crisis. Is there a way out? Well, that's exactly the question that technology is trying to answer. And that's where a platform called eGOX comes into the picture, designed to attack this problem right at its root.
So, what is eGOX exactly? Well, in a nutshell, its entire mission is to take that massive, invisible economic engine and make it visible. By digitizing the whole collection process from start to finish, it makes every single transaction transparent and traceable. The goal? To give cities a sustainable way to fund themselves.
And the process itself is actually pretty brilliant in its simplicity. It's really just 4 key steps. First, you map everything out. You identify and geolocate every single taxpayer so you finally know who's out there. Second, collection routes are assigned to agents digitally. Third, the payment itself is digital, quick, easy, done through a QR code or mobile money. And the final piece of the puzzle, the mayor can see everything happening, live on a dashboard. The loop is totally closed.
What this does is create a virtuous cycle, a true win-win-win scenario. Think about it. The city gets real-time data, which means better planning and more revenue. The agent on the street gets a more efficient, secure, and trackable job. And for you, the taxpayer, you get a simple way to pay, total transparency, and maybe for the first time, a real reason to trust the system. Okay, this all sounds fantastic on paper, right? A real game changer. But the billion-dollar question is always, does it actually work in the real world? Well, to find out, we're going to take a look at the municipality of Keur Madiabel in Senegal, where this whole digital promise was really put to the test. So this was the reality on the ground in Keur Madiabel. The tax compliance rate was less than 15%. Just think about that. That's the challenge they were up against, and it's exactly why they decided to bring in the eGOX solution. And you don't have to take my word for it. Listen to what the mayor himself had to say about it. He said this isn't just a tool for collecting money.
It's a strategic instrument. By giving the city reliable, hard data on its own economy, it actually makes the city a more credible, attractive partner for investors. In his words, it's a generator of trust.
And the results speak for themselves. For the first time, the city could literally map its own economy. They knew who was doing what and where. They could track their agents' performance in real time. All this structured data became a powerful tool for planning and for negotiating with partners. But maybe the biggest win of all, the whole process of revenue collection became transparent for everyone in the community.
Okay, the results in Senegal are incredibly promising. The model clearly works. So the next logical question is, how can other cities and towns get on board with this kind of technology? Well, the model was actually designed with that exact question in mind, so it's incredibly flexible. There are basically two ways a city can do this. The first is a partnership, where the tech provider just gets a small commission on what's collected. And this is huge because it means the city can get started with zero upfront investment. The second option is for the city to just buy the solution outright. That takes some initial cash, but gives them total control. That flexibility is absolutely key to making it accessible for everyone.
And that really brings us to our final thought, because this goes so much deeper than just collecting taxes. By bringing clarity and efficiency to a system that was completely opaque, tools like this do more than just modernize a process. They give local communities the data, the resources, the keys to actually finance and build their own future. And when you think about that on the scale of a continent, well, that's truly transformative.
For anyone who wants to dive deeper into how this digital transformation works, the official website is a fantastic place to start. Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer.